Here's an update on striper fishing in the canal by End Eddie Doherty, a retired Massachusetts court clerk magistrate appointed by the late Governor A. Paul Cellucci, author of 7 Miles After Sundown about surf casting the Cape Cod Canal for striped bass.
So we're here on the Cape Cod Canal on a beautiful day. We got a slack tide behind me that's about to turn east any minute. And you know, I get most of my, not most, but a lot of my information I get from the boys this summer. I see a lot of things in the canal. I'm involved in things myself that I report on, but Bill Protos is a great source for me. And right now he's with his lovely wife Tina in Dallas visiting some family. But notwithstanding the fact that Bill's away, he still keeps track of things in the canal. He texted me yesterday with all kinds of information about different catches. So Bill said that he adds new meaning to the word roving reporter. And right now he's roving in Dallas, so he'll be back soon. But anyways, it's been great in the canal. September's been a great month for fishing. There's still a lot of bait in the canal. There's silver sides and peanut bunker. There haven't been much mackerel, but a lot of small bait. And so the fish are keyed in on small bait. There's, you know, striped bass, bluefish, and false albacore mostly. So there's a fellow from Pennsylvania, George Ladek. Around mid-September, he caught a nice fish. He hooked into on a west tide. He was jigging about an hour before dusk, and George landed that fish and measured it. It was 50 inches, so that's a nice fish. So there's still some big fish in the canal. And a few days before Hurricane Lee, Mike Goodwin from Wareham caught 30 striped bass over a period of 2 days. Biggest one was 38 inches on a loaded cotton cordell, green mac, on a surface bite. And the day before the storm, there were a lot of striped bass, huge schools staging in Buzz's Bay, just waiting to see which way to go, I guess, with the storm. And so the day before the hurricane, they started coming into the canal on east tide, all sizes, schoolies, slots, above slots. And just as a reminder, a slot is 28 inches, so less than 31. That's a keeper. And they were just going, riding in east tide, right down the canal, bent rods all along the canal, guys catching fish. John Doble, the legendary great fisherman, was catching striped bass on every cast. Scott Ewell, who I see almost every day here, caught a 35-inch on a topwater bite on a outcast. And Scott also caught an albie on the bottom with a white striped gear rocket, which is unusual. Albies are usually so fussy that you can only catch them with albie snacks and silver metals, you know. But these albies must have been hungry, because I heard of some of them being caught on canal killers too. Bill Hurley canal killers on the bottom. Also, Jimmy Sidecast Belcher had a good day. He caught 4 bluefish and 2 stripers. The biggest blue was 34 inches. And I was fishing with Jimmy Kelly one day, the pride of Brighton. He lives in Centerville now. But Jimmy and I were having a great time, but we weren't catching any fish. So I had to leave to go to a doctor's appointment. And I took off, said goodbye to Jimmy. An hour after I went to the doctor, Jimmy caught a 41-inch and a 39-inch striped bass. So the moral of that story is, forget the doctor, just keep fishing. No, I'm only kidding. I don't want to get calls from doctors. Take care of your health. The day after the hurricane, Dr. Johann Frange, a nuclear physics professor at MIT, was fishing a west tide about an hour before dawn, and he caught a 38-inch striper on a white soft plastic algags jig. There are 3 guys that fish together all the time: Bustin' Bob Brew, Dave, and Ray Barros. 3 great fishermen, great guys. And John Doble, I think it was, that gave them the nickname the Bucket Brigade, because all of them, they all sit on 5-gallon buckets in between casts to take a break. And Bustin' Bob is also a great lawmaker. And he handcrafted a beautiful surface plug and gave it to me. And the next day I used it. On the second cast, I had a 34-inch bluefish hit it. And this fish was just full of energy like a lot of bluefish, dancing on the surface like a topping and splashing like a 2-year-old in the tub. So that was quite a fight. So thank you, Bob. You're a great lawmaker. And I just want to welcome back Bill Walsh to the canal, the pride of Roslindale. Great guy, good fisherman. And he had some problem with his eyes earlier, and went to the doctor, and they found out that he had cataracts. So he had cataract surgery to remove the cataracts from his eyes. And he told me, he says, you know, before I had the operation, Eddie, he said I was adding new meaning to the term blind cast. So we're happy to have him back with his vision back intact. So the best story of the month, I think, is Matt Sater, 14-year-old young man from Plymouth. Just a very polite, nice young man. He was fishing a West Tide with his blue fish lab. And Matt's been fishing his whole life. His whole life's only 14 years, but he's been fishing his whole life, but this is his first year in the canal. So he's a rookie canal rat. And he hooked into a 32-pound striper that he brought to fruition. And so that was great, but it actually gets better. The next day, Matt came back, and he went to the same place, the same time. It was just before dinner, and the dinner bell went off for striped bass, and he caught a 36-pounder. So in back-to-back days, he caught a 32-pounder and a 36-pounder. And so I wasn't there, so some of my guys got his phone number, and I called him, and I told him, I said, I got to talk to your parents before I interview you because you're only 14 years old. So his mother, Rebecca's very nice, and she said, sure, that's fine. And so when I was talking to Matt, and I'm interviewing him, he tells me, he says, hey, well, if you write something about me, could you be sure to give credit to my mother? Because my mother drops me off at the canal, and you know, if it wasn't for her, I couldn't be here. And I thought, how nice is that? This 14-year-old kid wants me to give credit to his mother, so of course I did when I was writing my column. But you know, I just thought that was so nice. He's such a polite, nice kid. The future of surf casting is in good hands with Matt Sater, so we're happy to have him on the Big Ditch. And so I just want to add a few names to the 40-inch honor roll. Matt Sater, Mike Goodwin, and Doug Freeman. And again, you know, this is guys who have caught at least one 40-inch this season, but some guys have caught a lot more than that, and Doug Freeman's one of them. Doug Freeman has caught 46 fish that are at least 40 inches long. So that's quite an accomplishment. If anybody can beat that or even come close, please contact me because I want to make sure this list is as accurate as I can make it. And my email address will be at the end of this video. And so I just want to give you my tip of the month. So if you're fishing the canal and you're used to other places, this is kind of a different approach, mostly because of the strong current. You've got a current here that sometimes goes over 6 knots. So factor that in when you're putting action into your lure, especially a surface plug. If you're used to whatever you normally do on the beach, do it a little bit less here because of the current. Because the current provides its own action, and so you know you're twitching your rod and doing what you normally do, but just don't overdo it here because you've got the current. So keep that in mind. So until next time, catch a big one.
Want your nice canal catch mentioned? Email the details to eastendeddie789@yahoo.com.